part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Before we get to today's episode, I want to take a few moments to tell you about our presenting sponsor, Aligned Health Center. Aligned Health Center is the first chiropractic biophysics clinic in Northern Ohio serving patients in Westlake. The team at Aligned Health Center helps patients with back pain, neck pain, migraines, ADHD, digestive issues, sleep disturbance, whiplash, scoliosis, and much more. The mission at Aligned Health Center is simple: to help people in the Westlake and Beechwood areas achieve the best possible health and overall wellness. They know what it's like to have constant neck and back pain. It's no fun, and they are here to help. And as a special offer for Cavs on the Break listeners, Aligned Health Center is offering a free exam to our incredible fans. That's right, you heard us correctly, a free exam at no cost just for you. Call Aligned Health Center at 440-230-6865 or visit their website at alignedhealthcenters.com to make an appointment and to learn more about how Aligned Health Center can help you. Mention Cavs at checkout to receive the free offer. Again, that's 440-230-6865 or visit alignedhealthcenters.com. Now let's get to the show.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Hey, what's good? Thanks for tuning in to Cavs on the Break NBA podcast right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. This is a special play-in tournament edition of the Cavs on the Break podcast. I'm your host, John Sabol from the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. You also may know me from Fox 8 News in Cleveland. Joining me, we have two co-hosts with me here tonight. You know the man, the myth, the legend, Sam Amico from HoopsWire, owner, editor, creator, breaking newser, you name it. Get all your Cavs and NBA content right there at hoopswire.com. Sam, what's good, man?
Oh, not much. Just ready for some postseason basketball finally in Cleveland.
Yeah, first time in a long time. 5 years, right? Since LeBron was back the second time.
4 or 5, yeah, somewhere in there.
2017, 2018 season.
Yeah.
You can follow Sam, if you haven't already, at Amico Hoops on Twitter. A roundtable discussion now follows us too. Jeremy in Akron, JIA. What's up, man? How you been?
Hey, what is up, John? Pleasure to be with two legends and giants of the sports industry in Cleveland tonight. It's going to be a blast here to talk some Cavs basketball.
Sam, how much money did you give Jeremy to say that?
I was just going to say, and John and I are here too.
Right. You can follow Jeremy on Twitter at Jeremy in Akron. You can also follow the Cavs pod here at Cavs on the Break on Twitter. Get in touch with us there. We want to thank you guys for tuning in for this playoff or play-in edition and also following with us throughout the entire season. And boy, has it been a memorable and surprisingly positive season for the Cavs. And thanks for your listenership throughout this entire season. I know Chase Smith couldn't be here with us tonight, but Chase is also appreciative for all you guys out there for downloading and listening to us on Press Play Podcast Network, on Spotify, Apple, and everywhere else you guys listen to podcasts. So thank you. So let's dive right into this. The season is now over. Regular season that is concluding tonight. Well, as we record this, it's now actually Monday morning at 12:10. But about 12 hours ago, Cavs finally finishing up the regular season, destroying the, I called it on Fox 8 News tonight, I called it the Milwaukee Bucks JV squad out there.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree? I mean, that was just the guys are riding the bench all year, finally playing in a game, and the Cavs rode them out, which is expected. You know, they're resting their guys.
Yeah, it was definitely a stripped down version of the Bucks. Purposely wanting to avoid what they assume will be the Nets, the number 7 seed. You know, they're already assuming the Cavs are going to lose to the Nets, and the Nets will get the number 7 seed. And if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, the defending champs, you've avoided that first round series. I mean, seriously, you think about these top 4 teams were kind of jostling, or at least the top 3. Well, throw Philadelphia in there too. We're hoping to avoid the Nets in the first round. So, because that's going to be a whale of a first round opponent. So yeah, it made sense that the Bucks weren't playing their guys.
Yeah, 133, 115. How about this, Jeremy? Did you see what happened at the opening tip of the game? Did you guys catch this?
No.
Drew Holiday.
Sam, Drew was the only starter that started the game because the rest of them were sitting out. And Drew Holiday, opening tip, immediately fouls Darius Garland 8 seconds in and then gets out of the game. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, why? Because he had that signing bonus of playing 67 games and it kicked in. He got $300,000 for 8 seconds of work.
That's fantastic.
Well, I'm kind of approaching tonight's podcast the same way.
Are you out? You out?
I'll see you guys later.
I mean, this is a topic of discussion for another show, but how much money or what work did you guys do in a short amount of time that made the most money?
Right. Know? Well, that's literally Sam every episode. 30 minutes. Boom, out.
I've said too much already.
Yeah.
Right. No, it was like the Rob Gronkowski. Right? Rob Gronkowski was $500,000 bonus. He needed like 6 catches. So he came in and Tom Brady threw him the ball every single play until he got 6 balls, got his $500,000 bonus. And, who knows where that money went.
And Gronk was saying, he said this on, I don't know, it's Kimmel or what other night show it was recently, that he said that he was so nervous to drop the ball because he wanted that so bad that he actually false started on the play. But the rest didn't even call it on it. Like they didn't even call it. They blew it. And
we got his pass. Let me say this, John, about today. I was actually impressed. The Cavs came out. How many times have we seen some guy we never heard of hit like 7 threes against the Cavs, but in a situation like this? The fact that the Cavs came out, got up 15-1, buried him. Garland only played 23 minutes. We did what we were supposed to do, which isn't always what happens. So I think that's a positive you can take from this, even playing against the Bucks G League squad.
Well, absolutely, Jeremy. Good point. And you know what? They needed to win this game for a lot of reasons. They needed it to obviously lock up that spot in the play-in tournament. But they also needed it for their own confidence, but also they needed it too. And Sam, you'll be the first to say this. They needed it to get some chemistry going. They needed it to get some guys back in the flow of the game. You needed Mobley to get out there and get another game under his belt before this game or before the play-in game. So you needed a lot of things go right. And it was actually the biggest thing for me was Kevin Love's 32 points. He had 23 at the first half, 5 of 7 from beyond the arc, only in the first half. I mean, you needed a veteran guy to step up in a game where they desperately needed to win for all those reasons and then some, and they got it.
Yeah, and Kevin Love became the first player in NBA history to score 30 plus points while hitting 6 3-pointers in less than 20 minutes of game action. So it was one of those days, like you're right. They needed a reason to feel good about themselves. They needed a blowout win. Didn't matter who it came against. Really, you kind of look at it like a really good kind of preseason game to get into the regular season. That's what this team needed was just kind of everything clicking, and nothing going wrong until they kind of put in the third stringers. Then JB felt the need to put the starters back in, but just anything that'll boost your confidence, get your starters some rest, and now you get ready and you go into Brooklyn and you do so knowing that, hey, you know what, this unit and this group, even without Jarrett Allen, can play pretty well when we catch fire and get clicking. And that's really the kind of mindset that they needed, because so much has been a struggle. And like Jeremy said, you keep waiting against these low-level opponents. It seems like somebody always ends up hurting the Cavs, and I was wondering if that might happen today, especially when I saw the Bucks were starting some guy whose last name sounds like a sneeze. I thought, watch, that guy's going to come out of nowhere and bury a bunch of threes, but they never allowed that to happen today.
That guy that sounds like a sneeze scored 28 points.
What he did too. Mama Scusavelli.
Yes,
I'm
Sandro.
pretty impressed you can say that, Jeremy.
No, that's not even accurate. I was just shooting from the hip there.
Close enough.
Hey, it sounded believable.
Who would know if you were wrong?
What I found was interesting too, even though they're playing this game against a team that, was resting everyone, all the records that the team broke or tied. I mean, they had 46 points, tying a franchise record for most points in a quarter. I mean, and then they had 79 points, I think was 79 points at halftime was their most points they've had, or tying the franchise record for most points they've had at halftime. Or, and then they had their 33-point lead at halftime was the most they've had in like 6 years, 2016, the championship year. I know it doesn't mean anything, but it just goes to show like anything can happen. And it was entertainment. It was just kind of random that you never thought that would have happened in this game with everything that you were up against, despite having the bench guys playing. I thought that was kind of funny too. Before we talk about this Brooklyn game and previewing it, which we'll do momentarily, what is your feel? I want to go around. Let's start with you, Jeremy. What is your feel of this team right now? I know you and Chase have talked a lot about it, especially with Sam, but where do you think this team is now at when it comes to, we know the health side, they're getting healthy finally. We don't know about Jarrett Allen, but mentally, and then their focus and their mindset here going into that game. What's your opinion on that?
I think they're in a good place. I think exactly what you said. I think mentally this was a big win. They know they're getting more healthy. I think Jarrett Allen being able to play will give the team a huge boost, both on the court and mentally, knowing, he's an all-star team leader. This would be maybe a little bit of a revenge game for him going back to the team that traded him away. I think they're in a good spot. And I think that in all reality, I know we talked earlier about got a little crazy with what they could do, but in reality, they're playing with house money. No one really expected them to be 44-38. No one really expected them to be in this position right now. So I think you're at a young team that does have some confidence. It's getting healthy. And I think they could, I think they could go in there and if they have Allen, I think they have a better shot, obviously, but I think they'll go in there and they'll play well for all those reasons.
Yeah, there need a lot of things to go right in order for them to win. And I mean, a lot of things. Kyrie Irving had a horrible game a couple days ago against them, and the Nets still won because they still had KD.
Coasted. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you didn't have any inside presence without JA in there and without really Mobley playing. But I mean, he played, but he's still getting his wind back. He's still getting himself, mentally, physically back. Sam, this is a matchup nightmare without Jarrett Allen for them.
Yeah, like you said, they need him, I think, to have a shot. I think they have a chance to keep things close, and if you can keep it close and give yourself a shot at the end, the big difference is obviously the Cavs' two biggest stars going into this game if Jarrett Allen doesn't play, obviously Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, guys with zero playoff experience going. Then you compare them to Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, who have won championships, and they're playing at home. It's just, the one thing I can tell you is the Cavs do feel a little bit slighted that Milwaukee was so willing to lose, thinking that the whole reason they wanted to lose was, which makes sense, is they would face Chicago in the first round as opposed to the Nets, because everybody's assuming that the Nets are going to emerge from this play-in game against the Cavs and be the number 7 seed, which, if you're the Cavs, okay, that happens, but at least you got the 8 seed and you can focus on that and you get a home game. So, if you're talking about the Nets, I really just think they need Allen, because then all of a sudden, you at least can try to neutralize Durant a little bit with Mobley, as opposed to having Mobley down low, battling with Drummond so much. So it doesn't, it's hard to say whether or not they'll have Allen. JB was pretty tight-lipped on that. I think he really doesn't know at this point, but it's, look, it's a long shot. We know it's a long shot. The Cavs know it's a long shot, and the Nets know it's a long shot, which may be the Cavs' greatest hope, is that, like you said, John, everything has to go right. Everything pretty much has to go perfect. And part of that would be the Nets not playing their best in really what is both teams' biggest game of the season.
Yeah, I don't think people or fans realize how much the Bucks didn't want to play the Nets, that they just said, screw it. We're not playing. We're going to lose. We'd rather face the Bulls. I mean, it's just, I know we've already talked about it. We're going to beat a dead horse here with Durant and Kyrie, but like, that just blows my mind that the Bucks are just mailing it in. They didn't want that seed. They're going to say, you know what, fine, we'll give it to you, Boston, instead. We're going to take Chicago. I mean, that's just, that's throwing some shade right there.
If you think about it, I mean, you like Sam said, you got Kyrie Irving, you have Kevin Durant, you have guys that have been through the battles. I mean, that is as opposed to playing the Bulls, which, haven't played well the last month. I mean, it makes complete sense.
It does. It's smart. Don't get me wrong. It's just
right.
Absolutely. It's kind of funny.
If you think the last couple
let's
days,
roll out the Wisconsin herd.
That's exactly what they did.
Good G League reference there.
But that game a couple nights ago reminded me of those games when the Cavs were really good and they knew they could beat someone whenever they want them. So they let them hang in for 3.5 quarters and then they just turn it on and that's the game, right? The Cavs are up 6 with 7.5 minutes to go, lose by 11 because the Nets really are that good. However, one thing, Sam, that I agree with you on is when Jarrett Allen is in the game, their defense is a different defense because the flexibility allows them, especially guarding Kevin Durant. So that is the glimmer of hope. And I think everybody saw the hour workout video from today with Jarrett Allen using only his left hand to shoot his hurt hand. So I think that's a glimmer of hope. And of course, JB is not going to let them know if he's going to play or not. Why would he? That'd be silly.
Right.
But leave them guessing up until the last minute. So I think the glimmer of hope is the defensive flexibility, especially guarding a guy as long as Kevin Durant that Jarrett Allen provides. So that's your glimmer of hope. That's your possibility. And hitting shots, right? Hitting shots and guarding Kevin Durant with Jarrett Allen are the opportunity.
And think about this too. I mean, Jarrett Allen's out there working out. I mean, he's not going to show you his whole repertoire in front of everybody. I mean, absolutely. The Cavs know where he's at. He knows where he's at. He's just doing some little things. Sam, don't you agree? I mean, he's not going to be doing everything in front of people publicly and in front of the media. I still think it's a long shot he's going to play, but still, I mean, he's going to be doing some fine tuning some things.
Right. He's out there just kind of working up a sweat was probably more what that was about, getting his win back a little bit. Obviously, you always hear NBA coaches say you got to get into practice because working out alone, putting up shots by yourself, it's just not the same. And even players will say that. So, sure. I think we'll know a lot more if we find out he practices ahead of the game or he's at shoot around or something along those lines. But, the funny thing is that, when you talk about the Cavs success that they've had this season, it's because they went big. They had Jarrett Allen, they had Evan Mobley, they had Markkanen. The Nets are the only team in the league that matches them in terms of size, in terms of overall size of their starters. Yeah. And, so that would, if they don't have Allen, then you got to subtract some of that size from the Cavs. So, but yeah, he does. It just changes as Jeremy said, it changes everything they do defensively. It changes their entire approach, and offensively, we forget about what he does on offense, which is finish a lot of plays, whether it's off a Darius Garland alley-oop or just kind of creating havoc in terms of getting the ball in the post and working on some of his foot moves that he perfected over the offseason. Just you're talking about all-star center. So just a huge difference maker. And a reason to think, maybe they can pull off an upset here if he were to play.
So here's how the play-in tournament works for our listeners out there that may be a little confused by it, because it is a little confusing. This is where it's at for the Cavs. They play the Nets Tuesday in Brooklyn. If they win, they lock up the 7th seed to play Boston. Right. If they lose Tuesday, they will play the winner of the 9-10 team, who's on the other side of the play-in bracket, which would be the winner of the Hawks-Hornets game. Cavs would then play that team on Friday at the Fieldhouse. So they would need to win that game in order to secure the 8th seed, which would then they played the Miami Heat. So in order for them to get in the real playoffs, if you will, they got to win 2 games.
They would have to win one.
Or excuse me, one game. But they would be playing.
They'd have to play 2. Yeah.
Yeah, they'd play 2.
They should lose.
They'd have to win
if they should lose. And guess what? Friday night would be in Cleveland if they lose Tuesday.
Well, that's also the Guardians home opener.
Guardians home opener and the play-in game.
Yeah,
be an interesting night in downtown Cleveland.
I already have my assignment from Fox 8. I'll be at the ballpark, so I won't be over at the field house. So, which is kind of funny because the last time we had a major playoff game in Cleveland when it came to the Cavs, or not playoff game, but a major game with the Cavs that coincided with the then Indians, was the World Series. The night the Cavs got the rings.
Yeah,
yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Funny.
Thinking that
story.
earlier.
So, as we look ahead at this game, we look at this team's inexperience. Kevin Love talked a lot about, how important it is to, start off on the right foot, start off and calling the season a success already. He also stated too, Sam, and this is something that you and I have said before in this podcast, that, and we also talk about this in our trade deadline special pod with Jeremy and Chase, is the fact that what would benefit this team long term, while the play-in tournament's great, is actually playing in a full 7-game series, because you need those extra reps. I want to play a clip from Kevin Love's post-game press conference tonight after their win against Milwaukee, echoing that same sentiment.
All the work that the front office has done, coaching staff, everybody coming in with an unbelievable attitude, this year, and still having a chance at the end of the season to be where we want to be, and still make noise, and hopefully playing a 7-game series. Yeah, I think that there's something to celebrate here, but understanding that we still have, a lot of work to do, and for us to get the experience at the very, very least in a 7-game series and get to feel what that's like. As a group, the group that we have here, I think it would be, paramount for where we want to go moving forward.
Sam, he must be listening to Cavs on the Break, an NBA podcast.
Who isn't? Yeah, he probably is memorizing it, and I'm surprised he didn't give us credit. That's straight plagiarism right there, Kevin.
Yeah, but he's dead right, though. Don't you guys agree?
Absolutely. And I'm sure Jeremy can speak to this, but anybody who's followed sports in any sport, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever, getting into get those, playoff series is invaluable. Not only because it gives you that experience in playing playoff style basketball, but it helps you the following season. To steal Jeremy's phrase, you're battle tested. You're going into the regular season feeling like, we got around in the playoffs, and now this year we're going to get to the next round, and then the year after that we're going to take those natural progressive steps and build off that. It's good to be in the play-in tournament, but it's not quite the same as getting a full series and having people say you're in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm sure the intensity level of those playing games will be like the playoffs, but it's the every little thing about a 7-game playoff series or 5-game playoff series. It's the seeing the same guys every night. It's game planning. It's knowing how a guy's going to defend you and how to beat him when he knows everything you're going to do. By the end of a playoff series, they know every set you're going to run. They know every play you're going to run. And can you still execute under that situation? When a team knows everything you're going to do, are you good enough to still beat them? And I think that's the kind of thing this team needs, is that intensity, not just the intensity, but the game planning, all the little aspects that go into a full playoff series.
Yeah, great point, Jeremy, because if you think about it, look at the Cavs teams of LeBron's second stint, how that's exactly what they did when they would toy with some of those teams like the Indianas or the Torontos of the world. I mean, they literally would toy with them because they knew exactly what they were doing, because they were playing with them consistently day in and day out in those series. Now, granted, that's LeBron and Kyrie and Love in those days, but when you have a team inexperienced like this Cavs team, is they can pick up on that quickly if they are in a spot in a 7-game series to expose somebody. And it's good to have a veteran like a Kevin Love on this team and a Rajon Rondo that have been through those battles that could help them out during that time if they can get there. And hopefully they will get to that point, get past this play-in tournament. It's going to be a tough task, though.
Yeah, well, absolutely. No, it is either way. Either both games are daunting at this point. Let's be honest. I mean, the Hornets are playing well. You have Trae Young on Atlanta. The obvious with Kevin Durant and Kyrie. So getting to that series is a big win there. And then, like you said, all the experience, all the positives they'll gather from getting into that series. So it's going to be an exciting week, no matter how you look at it, right?
Well, you hope to get 2 games. Well, you will get 2 games, because even if you lose the Nets, you're getting the one Friday night. But that's the thing is, they'll come back home and they'll have to play an Atlanta team. Say if they beat the Hornets, that went to the East Finals last year, and has all their key guys back. And then if the Hornets should somehow win in Atlanta, then you face a Hornets team that's always played the Cavs very well. They've played them particularly well in Cleveland. Terry Rozier always has big games for them. So it's just a matter of getting that experience in terms of playing the Nets, taking what you can from that game, and then your next opponent, just realize we got it at home. But yes, no matter how you spin it, 44-38, which is way better than anybody thought. And including us here on the Cavs on the Break Press Play podcast. And then you throw that in, and you throw in the fact that they're such a young team, and that they are going to get potentially two very valuable games of experience. And if they only need 1 game of play-in tournament experience, that's even better, because then they're in the playoffs.
Well, it's been a success, and we've talked about this countless times on the podcast. It's been a successful season regardless of what happens with them, because not many people predicted them to get out of 20 wins. Sam, you and I didn't. A lot of sports books didn't. They got 44 wins. That's the most wins a Cavs team has got without LeBron since the 97-98 season, which they went to the playoffs that year. When you think about that, that was nearly 25 years ago. So, it's been a great season, a successful season, a surprising season. I think a lot of postseason awards are going to come this team's way, regardless of where they go in the postseason. And we'll preview and give our predictions coming up after the break. But there's a lot of things here, a lot of things to be happy and really encouraged for going down the road into next year. All right, coming up after the break, Jeremy, Sam, and I will give our predictions on this play-in game with the Brooklyn Nets, what we fear, what we expect to happen, what we are happy about, all that and more coming up right after this timeout.
What's up, everyone? Chase Smith here, host of the Chase Smith podcast, and my podcast reflects who I am. My hobbies, my interests, my passions, my curiosities, my careers, my questions, and my family. I'll spend time talking about all types of sports, movies, TV shows, trending news stories, and other cultural events, and even faith. This is who I am, and I hope I can get to know you as well. Join me on the Chase Smith podcast, and let's have some thought-provoking conversations, only on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sabol.
And I'm Scott Sabol, and we're hosts of the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everyone, this is Mike Voorhees.
And I'm Brian Shaw. No, not the pitcher. We're the Guardians of the Land MLB podcast, formerly a Swing and a Tribe.
Don't have time to watch 162 games of baseball? We do. We have you covered with recaps of the games, stats, and analysis throughout the MLB season.
Subscribe now to Guardians of the Land and Press Play Pods for all your Cleveland sports analysis.
And welcome back to Cavs on the Break, an NBA podcast right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. John Sabol alongside Hoops Wires, Sam Amico, and JIA, Jeremy in Akron joining me here. So, guys, we kind of broke down what we thought about this Cavs season, what they did against the Bucks today, and what we think they're going to probably do here in this play-in tournament. But we really need to break down and give us our own predictions here on this game, which can be really tough against the Nets. Cavs 1-3 against Brooklyn during the regular season. They haven't beat the Nets in Brooklyn since 2018, believe it or not, 4-game losing streak. Anything can happen. I get it. but it's going to be a tall, tough task at hand. Jeremy, let's start with you. What is your prediction for Tuesday night's game?
I think they're going to play well, but I think they are going to lose. But I think they're going to come out and you're going to see them play at the level they need to play at to play in a game like this. But I just think, like you said, the Kevin Durant, the Kyrie Irving, the experience, the big shots, the overall skill of the Nets just a little better, and the Nets will win the game. But the Cavs will give it a go, and it'll probably be similar to that game a couple nights ago. The Cavs might have a lead in the fourth quarter, but the Nets will turn it on late, and I think they'll win, somewhere 6 to 10 points.
All right, Sam, what say you?
Yeah, I would say the championship experience that the Nets have is going to overcome the Cavs' inexperience in this situation. I think it'll be a close game. It's hard to tell, but you would think that the Cavs are going to come out very determined, probably keep it close for a while, and then just the championship experience that the Nets have and that the Cavs, hope to have someday, other than Kevin Love and Rondo. Nobody has this kind of big game experience, whereas a lot of the players on the Nets do. And I think that's just going to be the difference, unfortunately. The only thing that I was talking to a friend tonight, and I said, there are countless examples in the NBA playoffs where a number 8 seed will win game 1, or a number 7 seed will win game 1 over a number 2 seed. And then the number 2 seed will go on to win 4 straight games, knowing that they, figured it out. But so maybe if the Cavs can approach it like that and think this is our game 1 to win, and the Nets have a letdown. But the bottom line is that the Cavs are still fighting for their playoff lives. Whereas if the Nets were to lose this game, and I'm just saying this from a mental standpoint, if they were to lose this game, they know they would still be in. And maybe the Nets want to play the
Miami
Heat in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's those are all things that are really just kind of made up. And when it comes down to a true battle of these two teams, I suspect the Nets will be able to pull it out at the end.
Well, I guess I'll make the clean sweep because I don't have any faith. I agree with both your guys' predictions and sentiment here. Well played by both of you. I agree 100%. I mean, the Cavs could come out on fire. They could get up to like a quick 10-point lead. It could be diminished real quick. I mean, just look what happened on Friday, a few days ago. They were in Brooklyn. They were down 17 points. They came back, took an 8-point lead, and then just fizzled in the fourth quarter. And they fizzled for a number of reasons. One, Darius Garland started the game on the bench, which killed them in the fourth quarter, and then came it back too late, and the Nets went on the run. Cavs offense cannot flow without him on the floor. That's where you miss a Ricky Rubio, and that's a conversation for a different day. I know we've talked about that extensively, but also whenever the Cavs go on a run, or if the Nets go on a little slump or whatever, unlike the Cavs, the Nets can bounce back quicker because they have a Kyrie and a KD there. So any run that they can, it's demoralizing for this young team that they just don't have the firepower. They don't have the weapons. Not having Jarrett Allen hurts them. Even if he was playing right now, let's say he plays, I wouldn't expect anything out of him. I don't think he does play. If he's playing at an elite level, not hurt at his all-star level without, having this injury, maybe the conversation is different. But even with that now not being the case, you have a matchup issue there with Andre Drummond on the inside, who pretty much manhandled Evan Mobley inside, just outmuscled him a little bit. Yes, Mobley's better, in terms of perimeter, in terms of his skill set, but he got outmuscled a lot of those times. Granted, he's coming back from his injury. So they're just outmatched in a lot of ways. They need a lot of things to go right for them. They need Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to go like 0 for 15 from the floor, and do whatever. So I chalk it up as a loss. And the best case scenario after that is for them, the Cavs, to face the Hornets, because the Hornets are a much better matchup. That way you don't play the Hawks and Trae Young, and then you're looking at a game at the Fieldhouse Friday night.
Yeah, I think they would rather play the Hornets. The Hawks have played really well the second half of the season. Hornets have too, but that they're going to be missing Gordon Hayward, who really wasn't much of a factor for them, being injured most second half of the season. So he's definitely out for the play-in tournament game. And And yeah, if you have your druthers, you're going to pick the Hornets in that game as your opponent. I think they could beat the Hawks too. That's going to be a much tougher task, but the benefit, of course, is you're playing that game at home. And really, I think if they play the Hawks at home, it's a toss up. If they play the Hornets at home, they should be the Cavs should be the favorite. So, just emerge from this Nets game healthy and put on a good show and have some confidence going into that game at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
I won't ask you guys about the Hawks matchup versus or then wanting to play either the Heat or the Celtics. That's a conversation for our Friday show when, of course, we may not have a Friday podcast.
There may not be a Friday show if the Cavs could pull off the
right.
Cavs could pull off the upset in Brooklyn, right?
But if there is, in all likelihood, there will be. We'll talk about all that then. But hey, anything can happen. But guys, I just don't see it. I just think it's a matchup issue. I think there's too much firepower there. And Jeremy, let me ask you this question: what kind of production, in your opinion, do you need for them to keep this game close? Because you gave a prediction of what, 6 to 10 points they lose by. Is that what you said?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Did you look at the Vegas line when you said that, by the way?
No, but I'm going to guess it's in the 8.5 range.
It's 8 right now.
8. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And by the way, just for you gamblers out there, you degenerates, Sam, Jeremy, Chase can't defend himself. I'm kidding. The Hawks are a 4.5 point favorite on the Hornets, just in case you're curious. But
can I touch on the Hornets thing real quick? I'm not 100% sure I'd rather play the Hornets.
Ooh.
And let me tell you why. The Hornets are one of them teams where
Jeremy, hold on. Let's not get too much into this because we can't blow the entire tease to the next game. But just tease. Just give me.
Let me say
tease.
this real quick.
Tease.
The Hornets are one of those teams when it's good, they're great because they're playing that fast pace where they're launching shots. And when they're hitting, forget about it. They'll put 140 up with ease.
And they very rarely miss at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
They play well there. It's just I almost would feel better playing the Hawks, but we'll leave it there. Just let me my statement on that, John, is when the Hornets are hot, they're hot and they're tough to stop.
That is a great point, and I didn't think about it that way, especially when you think about them playing in Cleveland. The Hornets always play the Cavs really well in Cleveland for some odd reason. But we'll talk all about that Friday. Sam, but Jeremy, don't forget your point, because when we talk about this, I'm going to give you the floor, and I want to hear your breakdown. Hey, Sam, what do you look at? And Jeremy, jump in here too. What kind of production do you need out of some of these young guys? Or are we asking too much of some of these young guys to like Darius and Okoro and Mobley? Are we asking them to score? At least Darius and Mobley, they need to score at least 20, 25, 30 points for this game to be close. Am I wrong to say that? And maybe a core to jump in with 10 or 15?
Well, I think that you need, you need your two best players to have big nights. And then anytime teams win on the road against favored opponents, it's because you get an unexpected, probably in the Cavs case, you're going to need two unexpected really good performances from your quote unquote role players. Now, whether that's Kevin Love or, Okoro or Markkanen is somewhere between role player and leading scorer potential. Mm-hmm. So you're going to need your two main guys to have big games. Assuming Allen doesn't play, that'd be Garland and Mobley. And, then you're gonna have to find a big night, like it seems like it happens against the Cavs, as Jeremy said earlier. An opponent that you don't really know much about always has a big game against them. It seems like when they lose. Well, if the Cavs are gonna pull off an upset, they're gonna probably need two of those. They're gonna need a big performance from, say, Markkanen, and then a big performance from Love, or a big performance from Lamar Stevens. Probably any two guys other than outside of Garland and Mobley are going to have to come up big, which is the problem with playing on the road, because usually role players, they're much better at home.
Absolutely. Let me piggyback off that, Sam. I once heard Hubie Brown say that to win a big game in the playoffs on the road, you need your role players to play a road game like it's a home game. Exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Role players, for whatever reason, always feel more comfortable in their roles at home. So if you're going to win a big game on the road, you need the role players to play a road game like it's a home game.
You know who I need really to step up? I need Karis LeVert to give me 25.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need him to give me 25 points.
Well, I didn't even think of him when I was bringing that up, and that's saying something. I think that, he's kind of been the forgotten guy. And in his defense, it's a new situation, and still coming back from the ankle thing, but has not been the consistent Colin Sexton-like scorer that they had hoped for when they traded for him.
And you know what I think part of the
go ahead,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say part of it is I think maybe I didn't know his game as well as I thought he did when he came, or it just feels like he's got to be a ball dominant guy to be productive.
Yeah.
And maybe if you have an off season to work on it, you can work him into another role. But at this moment, he's got to touch the ball a lot to score his points. And he's kind of a guy that's kind of got to plays with his own pace, kind of got to get the spots. He doesn't really fit what we were doing this whole year. Now, like I said, maybe this offseason going into next year, they can work on that and they can make it better. But that's why I just thought the better role for him was coming in off the bench, playing 10, 12 minutes where he does dominate the ball to give Garland a break from running the whole show. So I just don't know at this point. I kind of like what's the old Bill Parcells, you are what you are at this point. I don't think we're going to see him have a massive game because I think it's more likely that we see Okoro hit a bunch of open shots than LeVert come out and score 25. Just my opinion. I could be way wrong. Watch LeVert score 30.
Well, I hope you're right.
But this kind of feels to me.
Jeremy, I hope you're wrong, but I also think you're right too. I mean, LeVert's only scored over 20 points twice since his being traded to Cleveland. It's crazy.
One of those games they didn't have Garland, I think. Wasn't that the game at Indiana?
Yeah, that was his second game. And the Mavericks game, he dropped 32. Now he's been
mostly in the first half.
Right. And he's been a little consistent of late. The last 5 games, he's averaging, 16 points a game, but against the Bucks B JV squad in 29 minutes, he only scored 6 points, and 2 of those 6 came from free throws. I mean, I agree. I think we maybe overvalued his play a little bit at that trade, but I also agree with saying him trying to find himself in the chemistry with this team. And then of course the injuries to everybody, the injury to himself really hurt his development with them. But you need a guy like him, a veteran, to come in here to step up in a game like this. The problem is what we're seeing here, and this is a podcast for a different day. This is a great topic for our summer post regular season wrap up pod. Is we're seeing a situation, Sam, where you have Karis LeVert, who, like Jeremy said, is a ball dominant player, needs the ball in his hand to score. That is basically a Colin Sexton. And I have, and this is, I know I shouldn't say this because we can go off topic here for a long time, but we do need to wrap this up. But at the same time, this is, they're creating another problem with him if he can't figure out a new role going into next year. If you keep Sexton on the team, or if you don't, and if he's not on the team, then you still have another Sexton number 2.
Yeah, well, and I'm still a believer in LeVert. I agree with Jeremy that let's wait to see how they can work with him in the off season. Mm-hmm. He is a guy, while he's ball dominant, that can be considered a weakness at sometimes. It's also great in the sense that this is a guy who, when he does have the ball, can break you down and either get fouled, draw a foul, or get a bucket usually. So I think it's just a matter of him needing an off season with the organization, as well as a full training camp. And then, I still think that he could be a fit here. And it's not to say that he's a terrible fit. He's just not been a great fit. So, they're going to have to figure that out. And I'm sure we will talk about that at some point. What are you going to do? You're going to keep 2 of these guys who are very similar in Sexton and LeVert in terms of their style of play, in that they do need the ball and to kind of hold on to it to break guys down, as opposed to doing their scoring within the flow of the offense. So that's something. But he's the good news is, even though he's not been as high prized as everybody wanted him to be when he first got here, he certainly has that potential, and that's the good news. He has the potential to, even though he's still kind of getting acclimated, has a potential to have one of those 25-point games, and boy, they could really use one Tuesday night.
Well, another guy.
And let me say this, guys. Let me say this real quick. If Sexton is not going to be back next year, no one has told Sexton that, because he is on the bench with the team. Like he is the man on that team. Yes. So I think Sexton's going to be back. I do think they both do need the ball in their hands to be productive. And, Sexton is way more explosive. So I think that Sexton can shoot, I think, a little better from outside. Yes. Mm-hmm. He's more explosive getting to the rim. So I think there is a chance you could fit. And he was starting to fit in this year. Look, that was the worry coming into this year. How would Garland and Sexton fit in? I thought the first, 6 games, he played 7 games. I thought he did look like he was fitting in. So, so maybe there is a world in this offseason where we can get Colin Sexton and Karis LeVert into roles where they can be productive and maximize their their productivity without having to dominate the ball all the time. But just at this moment right now, you can't change anything going into the playoffs. We are who we are at this moment.
Yep. Absolutely. And he did buy into that role of being that guy, Sexton did, which was tough to think about because you weren't sure if he was going to buy him that role. And he did a little bit, unfortunately, when he got that knee injury. Hey, last point here before we wrap up, boys. A guy that you mentioned, Jeremy, a little bit ago, maybe someone that could come up and drop some, maybe 15 points. Isaac Okoro lately has been struggling. And, he hasn't really been, he's been non-existent on the offensive side. We wanted to see his game this season explode and show that. And there has been glimpses of it, albeit very inconsistently. And really in the last few games, he has been kind of non-existent, playing a lot of minutes, about 30 minutes a game, but averaging only about 6 points a game in the last 7 games. Sam and Jeremy, before we wrap this up, what are your thoughts on Okoro in this particular matchup with the Nets?
Well, I think he's a guy that you can, he's not a lockdown defender, but he is one of your better defenders on the wing, if not the best on the team. And I think that can be, utilized in the sense that just go out there. And the nice thing about him is he guards, he will defend multiple positions. They put him on the best guy every time, usually, at least the best wing player. And sometimes he can, will defend the point guard. So I just think, with Okoro, the best way to use him in this game, or the best use you're going to get from him, is what he's doing when he plays very well. And that is go out and create, disrupt what a Kyrie Irving is doing. You're not going to disrupt what a Kevin Durant's doing, but to make them work for their points, whoever he's defending, because quite frankly, they don't really have a great lockdown wing defender. Okoro could potentially be something like that someday. And this is a true test. So for me, you're probably not going to get, there's too many times offensively still, and it's only his second year. We look at a lot of players, the leap that they make from second to third year. That's what I'm hoping out of Okoro. But there's just too many times offensively where you're playing almost 4-on-5 because he's just kind of staying there in the corner, just kind of running up and down the court. And they can't have that for very long because not in a game like this. He's got to make himself felt out there and make himself seen and heard.
And, in this series and going forward in his career, if he's going to be anything more than just a jag, just a guy, then a rotational guy, he's got to become a knockdown 3-point shooter, especially from the corner, because that's where his looks are going to come. Yes, he'll have his times on the break and all that, but when going forward, when you got scorers on the court, they're going to need him to spread the court if he's going to be on the court. I could see him maybe becoming a Bruce Bowen type going forward, right? A guy who can play some defense. But when Bruce Bowen got into his career with the Spurs teams, he started knocking down the corner 3, which is going to be imperative to keep the spacing on this Cavs team going forward. So if Ice is going to have anything more than just being a rotational guy, he's got to become a knockdown shooter from the corner to go along with the defense.
One thing I really do like about him, and that's so true, Jeremy, but the one thing I really do like about him is he will go to the basket very aggressively when he puts his mind to it, and he'll either finish or draw a foul. And I really like that about him. I've been impressed with the way he does that. He just needs to do it more often.
He's not lacking confidence. You can tell because he is aggressive and he can do it. I think what his issue is, guys, is that he may be waiting for his other playmakers around him to do something, and he doesn't want to maybe screw that up, like he
Step
sees
on any
with
toes or
and that's a fair. If I haven't talked to him, but I would imagine that's what my opinion is. That's
well,
what
I think you can see it just from watching him play.
He's defaulting to them, which is totally understandable.
He's got to just find his role and excel in his role and accept his role. And I just think ultimately that role is that hitting the wide open shots, picking your spots to get to the rim, and playing good defense. I think that's where, if he's going to be a very productive player in this league, especially on this team with the guys around him, if we re-sign Sexton, Garland's going to be the number 1 option. Sexton's going to be the probably 3 option. Mobley's going to be the number 2 option. Ice is never going to be anything higher than maybe the 4th option on the court, right? So if he's going to be there, he's got to hit when he gets his chance. When his chances come, he's got to take advantage of them. But he's got to be a better shooter. He just has to be a better shooter.
I like your comp about Bruce Bowen. The comp that Sam and I always thought of, Jeremy, when he came out of school, was that he kind of reminded us of a young Andre Iguodala type with his long wingspan.
See that too.
He just has to develop that offensive game. He has that capability of becoming that lockdown defender. And like, look at Iguodala later in his years. He developed that corner 3 that you're talking about. So we'll see where he goes.
Let me tell you this. Bruce Bowen became a 40+% 3-point shooter late in his career with the Spurs. And he came out as just a guy who was strictly a defender. And then he got to a point where he's shooting over 40% from 3. So.
Yep. That's another good person to strive to be. Another good person, another good player there. Well, guys, let's wrap it up here on the Cavs the Break NBA podcast, the special edition of the play-in tournament with the Cavs facing the Nets coming up on Tuesday, April 12th in Brooklyn. Hey, guys, thanks so much for stopping by. We'll have to do it again here. Maybe we get Chase out of bed to do this next time. We do this Friday if the Cavs lose.
Yeah, Friday. I like our odds of doing it Friday, but I hope we don't, because that will mean they win. And also, I wanted to remind you guys real quick that Chase Smith is also proclaims to be a 40% shooter from beyond the arc.
Remember, he played college ball. So.
You're right. Yeah, and was an actor.
We appreciate you guys listening to us here on the Cavs on the Break NBA podcast, right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. You can follow Jeremy and Akron on Twitter at Jeremy and Akron. Follow Sam Amico at Amico Hoops on Twitter. You can read all Cavs, all NBA at hoopswire.com. Sam, as we are wrapping this up here, I see some breaking news that you're going to be putting on Hoopswire here very shortly. Do you see it too?
Frank Vogel, which comes as no surprise.
Yeah, Frank Vogel, the Lakers.
Last game with the Lakers,
are done. He got fired.
Did you see the Luka news?
Luka
may be out. Strained calf.
Yeah.
Yep. And you can read all of those stories and more at hoopswire.com. It's funny. We're on the Zoom call. We can see we're seeing Sam talking and writing stories left and right and cooking at the same time.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Renaissance man. A true
Renaissance man indeed. You can follow me at John_Sabol. Follow the pod at Cavs on the Break. And we want to thank Aligned Health Center for making this episode possible, for their support, and also for the Press Play Podcast Network for making this episode and podcasts worthy of you guys listening on Spotify, on Apple, and wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll see you guys next time right here on Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.